Hi all, Karthik here from Design School by Wpalgoridm. In this video, we'll see how we can take data filled in one page and pre-fill data on another page using dynamic content plugin. This can be done in two brief methods. One is by using the export extension of dynamic content plugin, and the second method can be done by using the dynamic redirect extension of dynamic content plugin. If you don't have dynamic content plugin, you can get it from the link in the description. And let's see how we can build truly dynamic Elementor Pro forms using dynamic content plugin. So I'll create 4 pages. First we'll create page 1 and page 2, and we'll see how we can exchange data between page 1 and page 2. So I'll just click on add new. This is an actual WordPress page, not Elementor page. So I'll just call it page 1. I'll click on edit with Elementor. It will take me to Elementor interface. Now on this page, I'll have Elementor Pro form. So I'll search for form, drag it in. You can have any fields that you want, it doesn't matter. I'll have name, email. I'll go with the basic name fields, and I'll just rename this to F name. I'll rename email. I think email is already email. Message is again message. Now the reason why I'm renaming this to F name, I'll explain that in a bit. You'll understand why I'm doing that. Now we have a form on this page, right? So let's say user fills in the data, and let's say user can go to another page and he can have all or some of the data from this page pre-filled on that. So essentially the data that we're getting on this page, we'll just store it and we'll pre-fill it on another page. And this can be done using an extension for Elementor Pro called Dynamic Redirect. So under actions after submit, I'll remove this email. It's not really required for what we're doing. So I'll just choose this Dynamic Redirect. Now I want to redirect it to another page, and I'll actually create a new page and I'll call it page 2, and that will be on the receiving end. So on this page we'll have, maybe we can have another form or we can do complex logic. We'll do that with page 3 and page 4. I'll explain what we're going to do. So I'll have same or similar form. So I'll just drag in Elementor Pro form widget onto this, and I'll call this, I'll click on the settings cog, rename it to page 2. I'll hit publish. I'll go to dashboard and make sure that the URL slug is page -2, and for this it will be page -1. I'll click on the permalink, it's page -2, that's great, and this is page -1. Now under dynamic redirect, there are no redirects. I'll just click on add new item, and the condition you have to choose, you can choose any of the 3 fields, and the condition should be valued. So if the user enters a name, we're going to do something, and what we're essentially going to do is to redirect him to this particular page, which is page 2. So I'll type the URL of the page, https wpfreedom.com, which is my site, and page 2, page -2, right? That's great. So if there is a valid input or valid entry in the name field, now the question is, how do you send the form values from this page to this page? Once we have form values on this page, we can simply retrieve them using dynamic tokens. So you can use dynamic tokens throughout the Elementor interface. Now if you're in Google, if you're on google.com, and let's say we searched for dynamic content or dynamic visibility, and when you click on that, and that's our video right there. Anyway, so once you search for something in Google search engine, notice that the URL is still google.com, and they have it is actually redirected, or it is actually sending a request to a page called search, and after search you have something that has all the data related to the search term, and these are nothing but the parameters, right? The search parameters, and your search is formatted and it's making a get request with these terms. Essentially that's what is happening. So when you make a request to a server, it's essentially a get request. Now don't be confused about the get request post request. It's basically making a request to a server, requesting information with this search term, and it lists out all these results. Anyway, so the same way WordPress can also do parameter handling, right? So you can attach the data dynamically. So we're actually redirecting this to page 2. Instead of statically redirecting it, we'll attach all the values or maybe name an email to page 2. And you can actually go to dynamic content plugins documentation, and they have an example for this. So if you go to the dynamic redirect action, scroll down, you can see here's an example of how you can use the query parameters, right? So I'll just copy this. It's essentially the page you're trying to redirect to, and then you have question mark, and after question mark you have key equals and the value. So I'll just copy this for now, and I'll paste it into this dynamic redirect option. I'll scroll down. This is actually wpfreedom.com. I can remove www dot. So wpfreedom.com page -2, and then you can have your query parameters, right? So you can have email equals, this is a dynamic token, right, within the query braces. We've discussed that while discussing dynamic tokens. So it will essentially get the value of the email filled by the user. And here instead of name, you should use fname. If you use name here, it will throw up an error, 404 error to be precise. And fname equals form colon fname. This is a dynamic token supplied by the dynamic content plugin. Then they have few filters. So if there is any space, the space is then replaced by underscore. In case users are actually using space in the name field, it will be replaced. So this is a common pattern that you can use. So essentially when we type name, email and message, it will redirect to this page with these information in its URL, which can then be retrieved from page 2. We'll see how that happens. So I'll just update this. So it's https://wpfreedom page 2, and then we have our parameters, right? So email and fname. So that's great. So once we have these here, let's say I want the default value of name field in this form to be the default or the value filled on page 1. So how do I retrieve that? I go to name, I go to advanced, and I just want to set the default value. I'll just click on here, scroll down, and I'll click on token. I'll click on token again. You can use wizard mode, and under wizard mode you need to pick system, and you can see there's something called get underscore get. So type that underscore get. So essentially it will get the request using get method, which is the default method, and the parameter that we're trying to get is fname in here. So the default value will be filled with that, and we'll also set a fallback condition in case the value is not present. So fallback will be your name here. So if the user on page 1 doesn't enter name, page 2 will show your name here. If he enters a name, it will show the get value or the name value. Similarly, I'll click on advanced and I'll set the email value on page 2 to the email filled on page 1, and I'll click on token again. We need to apply the same thing, wizard mode. I'll click on system again underscore get, and the field is email, right? I'm actually getting that from here. So this is the field email. So this is what is being used over here. So I'll say email, and we'll also set a fallback, and the fallback will be your email here. That's great. Now let's see this in action. I'll update this. I'll actually go to page 1. I can actually go to page 1. So it's wpfreedom.com page -1. I'll go to this page, which essentially has our form 1. On entering name, will be redirected to page 2 with these parameters, and when we redirected to page 2, the name should be pre-filled with this name and email should be pre-filled with the email that we fill on page 1. Let's see how that works. So name, again I'll enter Karthik, some random email, I'll click on send. Now this will be redirected to page 2, as you can see here, and you can see we are now redirected to page 2, and you can see the URL, and the URL has the things that we filled on page 1, right? I filled me@mail.com and I filled fname as Karthik. Essentially we are using dynamic tokens. If you have any other field, you can get that from dynamic tokens, and you can see that the form fields are pre-filled with these values, right? Isn't it cool? So this can be typically used in a checkout process. So user first registers, he enters his name, email, address, and you can then have another form where user can check out and basically confirm all his details. He doesn't have to enter all the details again. You can pre-fill information from page 1 to page 2. You can see the name is pre-filled and the email is pre-filled. Let's try that again. I'll open up page 1 again. We'll try filling different data and we'll see if the page 2 is pre-filled with that data. I'll fill another some random data. I'll just click on send. We're essentially dynamically redirecting to a URL that has the query parameters, and just like that we are on page 2 but not a normal page 2 with the special data. So we're essentially taking the data on page 1, attaching it to URL, and then we are retrieving it on page 2. Really neat, right? All by using dynamic tokens. So on page 1, after the target URL, you have a question mark, and then this can be anything, right? This can be Gmail, email, Fmail, whatever. So whatever you're using here, you need to get using the same token. So you use get, and the subfield should be whatever name that you use there. Since I used fname there, you have to use fname. So if I put gname or whatever name here, so if I put gname here and even here, then you need to use gname here. So it will get that data by using that query parameter, and we're getting name and email. Now not just in another form, you can use these wherever you want. So if you want to pre-fill a heading with the email, you can do that, right? It's quite simple. Let's actually do that. So I'll click on the widgets button, I'll drag a heading below this, and I'll do one thing. I'll click on the dynamic token, scroll down, and these are actually supplied by the dynamic content plugin. I'll click on token again, wizard mode, again system underscore get, which is a request method, and I'll just get the fname. I'll have fallback or before that, so I'll say hello over here. So whatever name is filled on page 1 will welcome him with the same message. I'll actually move it onto the top of the form. We'll update this. This is updated. Now let's go to our page 1 again. So let's type some data over here. This is a way to truly build dynamic Elementor Pro forms. Usually request parameters require you to have an email marketing service, but you can also do it between pages or between page and a post. It doesn't matter where you're getting it from. I'll just click on send, and this will be redirected to page 2 again with the same parameters. We also have a heading widget. This time it's being redirected, and just like that, in the heading widget you can see that the value that I filled on page 1 is given here, and we've set a text before that, dynamic token here, right? So we have chosen token here, and under advanced, before text we have chosen hello. So that's the reason why we see hello John over here, and even the token is filled here. So the tokens obtained from the URL can be used basically anywhere. Wherever you can use any Elementor widget and the dynamic options, you can use this. So this is one example using the dynamic redirect method. Similarly, you can have similar exchange of data between two pages. So you can get data filled on one page to another page in another extension, or by using another extension called export. You must have seen it while you're choosing actions after submit. So if you click here, you'll see export. We'll create two new pages. So we'll leave these pages as is, we'll leave them here. We'll create two new pages. So I've created two new WordPress pages and then clicked on edit with Elementor, or you can do it from Elementor Finder, however you want. So I'll copy this form for time being. We'll just right click, copy this and paste it into this page 3. We'll of course change it a bit. Since we have all that formatted, it's easy for us to edit. Now we have the form with the same F name and the label and all that stuff. That's great. Now under actions after submit, instead of dynamic redirect, I'll remove dynamic redirect and I'll pick export. Export is, well, another way to send data from one point to another point. It can get really techy or geeky, but you don't have to worry much about it. We'll just use export to send data between two pages. Again, this page will be https WPFreedom.com and page 4, right? So when we fill the form from here, we'll send the data to page 4. Now instead of attaching the parameters over here, it will automatically attach parameters. We just chose get method, so it will attach all the data from this page and it will send it to page 4. You don't have to do much about it. And you can choose get or default method, it doesn't matter. We'll see if it works with the default method. So I'll update this. Now since we're exporting and we're specifying that the endpoint is page 4, the page 4 will have all the data sent from page 3 in, again, attached in URL, right? Since we are choosing get method over here, it will be sent using URL, right? Now I'll do something different here. So I'll have an image. So let's say I'll have a logo, or maybe let's have a small image. I'll have this image. I'll click on insert media. I'll have a medium sized image. I'll align it onto the center. So let's say if the user has filled a name in here, I'll show this image. If the user doesn't fill name in here, we'll hide this image. Well, how do you do that? You can use dynamic visibility option. I'll click on visibility. I'll click on enable. I'll remove everything except dynamic tags, because the dynamic tags is what we're going to use. We're going to get data using the similar fashion. I'll choose dynamic tag and we're getting the data. I'll click on dynamic tags, scroll down, again choose dynamic token, and the condition is when token has a value, and the token will get using the same way, system underscore get, and the name is fname, right? So if fname, and it says if fname is valued with any value, so if fname is filled on page 3, only then show this image. So visibility is actually show, so show when this condition is satisfied. So if the first name, or actually the name, is filled on page 3, only then will disclose our image, else it will be hidden by default. The converse is what happens. So you can also enable fallback content. So I'll say no image is here. I'll just update this. We'll see that in action. I'll go to page 3. I'll fill my name, or I'll fill another name. I'll just click on send. Now it will redirect us to page 4. Let's see that in action. Well, it didn't redirect, right? Because we chose export, but we didn't have any option over here. So we'll choose get method and we'll again paste the same URL. It's essentially exporting the data, but in order to redirect, we have to choose get from here and we have to paste the same URL. I'll update this. We'll give it another shot. We'll refresh this page. Email has to be validated. I'll click on send again. We have to choose the export option, and that will just export the data using get method. And then we should also redirect the page using this. And just like that, you can see we are now redirected to page 4. And again, we have the same query parameters in the URL. It attaches post ID, form ID. If you want to get form ID, well, you can get that. If you want query ID, you can get that. Fname John, right? Email, it's also getting email. So let's actually do one thing. I'll go back to page 3. I'll remove John from here. I'll try sending the form. Since I didn't apply any conditional logic, the form will be sent without or with a blank name. Now we see the fallback text. That's because fname is not filled and fname value is empty and the fallback text is being shown. That's really neat, right? So we just applied conditional logic based on the dynamic token which is present in the get URL parameter. If the name is valid, then we can apply the same thing. So we can apply the same visibility to this widget as well. So if there is a name, I'll use navigator to put it above this. So I'll use again dynamic token first to get the name. I'll click on token. Again, the method is get and it's fname. I'll have a text below that or before that. I'll say here's an image John or whatever name he fills, right? And I'll apply a visibility condition to the heading. Now I'll only show this when there's actually a name, right? That's pretty logical, right? If there's a name, I'll greet him with a name. If not, I'm not showing the image at all. So I'll choose dynamic tags. I'll click on tags again. Again, it should be valued with some value. I'll click on token visit mode underscore get, and it should be fname. So if this whole token has a value, then please display the heading as well. If not, don't display the heading as well. I don't want that. I'll align it onto the center maybe. I'll hit update. We'll reload this page just in case it's not how this works. So I'll say John. I'll type some message. I'll click on send. Now that's being redirected to page 4. That's great. I'll go back. I'll now remove the name and try sending the form. According to our logic, both the heading widget and that image should be hidden, and just like that, it's hidden. So this is how you can use these tokens with the get method, and you can see all the data being present in the URL. And this is how you can exchange or pre-fill information based on what user has filled in the previous Elementor Pro form. This is how you make your Elementor Pro forms more interactive and more fun and also more dynamic. That's it for now. Hopefully you had understood what I explained in this video. We're essentially using get request, and whatever parameters are there in the request, we're just getting values using that parameters. And we've used a couple of extensions of dynamic content plugin. One is the export extension method, and the second one is the dynamic redirect method. So this is some real life scenario in which you can use these. That's it for now. Hopefully it made sense. Thumbs up, subs up. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.